As a stock trader, you may have heard of the term option or options contract. But what exactly is an option contract? An options contract is an agreement between a buyer and a seller to deliver shares of stock at an agreed upon price by an agreed upon date. These shares can be delivered in one of two directions because a stock can move up or down, which differs from buying and holding long stock and hoping it will only go up. These two different sides are referred to as calls and puts. Call options give the option holder the right, but not the obligation, to buy shares of stock at an agreed upon price on or before a particular date. Put options give the option holder the right, but not the obligation, to sell shares of stock at an agreed upon price on or before a particular date. Some other definitions that we need to cover are: the agreed upon price is known as the strike price. The agreed upon date is known as the expiration date. Underlying is the asset or shares for which the contract is written, and each contract is worth 100 shares. In the case of a call option, the buyer of the contract is taking a position that they want the underlying to increase in value. Let's say a stock is currently trading at $100 per share, and this is where we set our strike price. The price of the stock or underlying increases to $120. The buyer can then exercise their contract and take delivery of the shares at the $100 strike price. Since each contract is worth 100 shares, the buyer will make a $2,000 profit on this contract. For put options, the buyer of the contract is taking a position that if the stock decreases in value, they will be able to sell the stock at the strike price. Let's say, for this example, that the strike price is $100 and the stock price for the underlying decreases to $80. The buyer can exercise their contract and sell their shares at the $100 strike price. Why would someone want to do this? Let's say that you bought a new home for $200,000 and purchased the insurance policy to protect it. You agree with your insurance company that the value of the home is $200,000, the strike price, and most homeowners insurance policies offer a 1-year coverage. Expiration date. If your home sustains partial or complete loss, then the value of your home would be significantly reduced, and you would exercise your contract. This would be the same if you owned long shares of a stock and were protecting your investment in case the value of those shares were to decrease. Both of these examples are from the perspective of the buyer. Now let's look at the seller. The seller is exactly the opposite of the buyer. In a call option, the seller has the obligation to sell the shares if the buyer exercises their contract. The shares are being called away because they have increased in value. In a put option, the seller has the obligation to buy the shares if the contract is exercised. The seller is put the shares because the value has decreased. So why would anyone want to be a seller? It appears that they take all of the risk. Along with the strike price and expiration date, the buyer and seller agree upon what's called a premium that is paid to the seller in order to take the risk from the buyer. Looking back at our example with the homeowner's insurance, the homeowner pays a premium in order for the insurance company to protect the value of their home. If nothing happens to the house in the year's time, then the insurance company gets to keep the premium. But someone has to take the risk. The buyer gives up the risk of losing value on their home for a premium and transfers the risk to the seller. Let's do some math. Say you owned 100 shares of a stock at the current price of $100 per share with a total value of $10,000. And you are hoping that the value goes up, but if it doesn't, you want to buy some insurance. So you enter a contract with a strike price of $100 and pay a $500 premium to protect your investment for the next 60 days. After the 60 days, the stock price increases to $110 per share, bringing your new account value to $11,000 less the $500 in premium that you paid. You may consider this a loss at this point, but what happens if in the same scenario the stock price drops from $100 per share to $90 per share, bringing your account value down to $9,000? You have the option to exercise your contract and sell those shares for $100 per share, less the $500 premium, which will give you $9,500 in credit in your account. That was a put option from the seller's perspective, working as an insurance company, which was the original basis for options. But what happens in a call option? Why would someone want to pay a premium to purchase a stock if it goes up? Let's say that you had your eye on a stock and it's a bit out of your price range, but you still think it's going to go up. The stock is currently trading at $100 per share, so you buy a call option at the $100 strike price that expires in 60 days, and you pay a $250 premium. The stock moves up to $110 per share, and you exercise your contract and buy the shares at $100 strike. The value of the $100 strike contract is $10,000 for the 100 shares less the $250 premium, but you are now the proud owner of the shares worth $11,000. So you've made $750 profit in the 60 days. The other side to this is if the underlying price drops. Using the previous example, you agreed on the same $100 strike and paid the $250 in premium with 60 days to expiration. The stock drops from $100 to $90. Since you are the buyer, you have the right but not the obligation to buy the stock, so you simply let the contract go through expiration and nothing happens. If you would have bought the stock outright at $100 per share, after the drop, you would have lost $1,000 in value on your stock position. So even though you are paying a premium as the option buyer, all of the risk falls on the seller and the buyer does not have to exercise the option. What if you don't own 100 shares? You do not need to be the owner of the 100 shares of stock in order to sell the options contract. In the case of an option seller, most brokers will allow you to borrow the shares while holding a margin against your account in the event of assignment. We remember that an assignment is when an option buyer exercises their option contract and either calls away the shares, as with a call option, or puts their shares to the seller, as with a put option. I hope this gives you a basic understanding of how call and put options work for the buyer and seller. If you have any questions or want more videos, please fill it out in the comments section below. Thank you.